Hello, I'm constitutional attorney Katherine Henry, and this is our Constitution segment recap from this week's episode of Restore Freedom Weekly. So this week we talked about something a little different than what we have in the prior weeks of this particular Restore Freedom Weekly series. Oftentimes we're talking about an important court case or explaining what a law is or going over some bills that are in a state legislature, something that has recently passed a state legislature and been signed by a governor, things like that. Well, this week we took a little bit different focus, and we talked about that rumor of, we handled the topic of the truth about the allegiance of U.S. bar attorneys, and essentially asking the question or answering the questions of, do U.S. bar attorneys swear an allegiance to the Crown of England? And are U.S. bar attorneys part of the British Accredited Registry or British Accreditation Registry? And the answer is a resounding no to both of those questions. But in order to understand the truth behind that answer, it's important that we take a moment to have that recap and look at the actual source documents themselves. And quite frankly, this is something that could take hours and hours to go through, because each and every state has their own system for licensing attorneys, and each court essentially. So the Eastern District of Michigan Federal District Court is separate from the Western District of Michigan Federal District Court. I'm admitted to practice in both of those. The state of Michigan courts have their way of doing things versus how Minnesota does it, when that's where I was when I was first licensed to practice law. And that's all, of course, different from those who are admitted to practice in the United States Supreme Court, where I'm admitted to practice as well. So these are all, places I've had experience in being admitted to. But in the full episode, the video, we talked about several different states and their requirements. And sometimes the requirements to be an attorney are found in a court rule. Sometimes it's state law, like in Minnesota. The oath is there. Sometimes it's part of the state constitution or different things. And so although you can take hours talking about this topic and really going into the requirements and where they come from for each and every set of courts, this video is going to recap just the parts of the U.S. Michigan constitutions that talk about the requirements of the oath for attorneys, and then looking at the example of Michigan state law and the Michigan rules of professional conduct for attorneys that all pieces this together. So with that being said, why don't we actually start with the Michigan rules of professional conduct, because that'll help us to understand where to place attorneys in terms of, are they part of a branch of government? Are they public officials? How do we know that? Well, Michigan Rule of Professional Conduct 1.6 says that a lawyer is a part of the judicial system charged with upholding the law. And MCL, or state law 600.901, says that the State Bar of Michigan is a public body. And state bar members are officers of the courts of the state. So you kind of take from that and you extrapolate to, okay, so they're judicial officers. They are public officers. They're public officials that are part of the judicial branch. Well, so what does that mean? The Michigan State Constitution, Article 11, Section 1, has the language, all officers, legislative, executive, and judicial, before entering upon the duties of their respective offices, shall take and subscribe to the following oath or affirmation. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state. Now, that is by and large how all the other states start off their constitutional oath, specifically their oath for attorneys. And why is that? Well, it all goes down to the United States Constitution, Article 6, Clause 3, and really the latter portion of that sentence. All executive and judicial officers, which we now know includes attorneys. All executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. Therefore, you see the language in all of these state constitutions and these attorney oaths of office, the requirement to support the United States Constitution and then to support the Constitution of that particular state. Well, it's as simple as that. This video hasn't been that long yet. It's different than a lot of the other videos, especially last week, where there were so many different parts of state or federal constitution that support what we're talking about. But this one is pretty darn simple. And like I said, in the end, it all boils down to the U.S. Constitution, Article 6, Clause 3, which requires judicial officers that include attorneys, members of the bar, to take that constitutional oath to support the U.S. Constitution. So again, this is just the Constitution segment recap to see or hear the full discussion and all the pieces involved. Please go back and watch our full episode from this Tuesday at noon. And of course, tune in next Tuesday at noon for week 13's Restore Freedom Weekly episode.